Do not interrupt me when I'm daydreaming.
Hello, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel if you've been here before. If you have been here before and you subscribe to the channel and you comment on the channel and you like the videos and you do the little notification bell, all that stuff, thank you so much. That's awesome. Really, really appreciate it. Genuinely, really appreciate it. Because for me, it's all about the relationships, friendships and all that. Obviously, it's about books, but it's about the relationships around those books as well. So thank you so much if you're communicating and you're liking the videos and you're watching and you've subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, then check out the other videos to see if you like the cut of my jib. Yeah, I thought I'd do a video on what I'm not reading. So clearly, most videos are about what you either have read or you're about to read or what you've just bought. But because I'm doing lots of book events at the moment, there's like tons of stuff that I'm not reading and some that I can't wait to read. And I'm just not reading because I'm doing book events. And there's actually quite a few books here. And some of them are recently bought. And some of them I've had for a while and still haven't got around to reading. There are a couple that are going to get read because I'm going to buddy read them. So I'm going to start with them. And then I'm going to talk about some other books that I'm hoping to read. Maybe in between the book events or just once those book events are done. Like last year I had a month away from book events so I could get stuck in to at the time it was vintage science fiction. I've got 2 boxes of vintage science fiction down there that have got lots of interesting things. Like I want to do a proper delve into Andean Foster stuff and Joe Haldeman stuff and Robert Silverberg stuff. So that's true anyway. And I've got my continuing up there, you can't see it, but my continuing development through J.G. Ballard stuff as well that I want to carry on with. But in the meantime, these are specific books. So if you do have an opinion about these books, please let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts on these. So just, this is a book I got well excited about finding, and I've had it for ages now. I've had it for at least a year. I think about a year and 3 months or something. And MJ recently mentioned it. And I think I'm going to try and coordinate with MJ, and I think someone else is going to be reading it soon. So I was going to try and do that so that I've read it. So that's one thing that I should have read by now, haven't read it. So that's one thing I'm not reading, but if I can read that, it'd be cool. Consumed by David Cronenberg, the great film director David Cronenberg. It's probably a disgusting book. Also, back in February last year, so again, what's that, about 15, 16 months, more than that, I read the first book in Brandon Sanderson's trilogy. What's it called? What's the trilogy called? Can't remember, but it was a brilliant book. I really loved it. The Final Empire it was called. I really enjoyed it, and I immediately bought the other 2, and I still haven't read this second one. So The Well of Ascension, I need to read this because I really enjoyed the first one. It's a big one, so it'll take me at least 2 weeks probably. But I really want to read it. I really enjoyed the first one. And it didn't feel anywhere near as long as it was. I just rattled through it. So, yeah, I do definitely want to read this. I haven't read that one. Also, talking of buddy reads, I'm going to be reading this soon. I've had this for quite a while as well. That's been sitting there. You've probably seen it in the videos. It's been sitting there about there, I think. Or maybe there, actually, the next one up. But it's been in the videos for a while. And I really like Adrian Tchaikovsky. And Dave and Olive from Book Brother are going to read this with me, so we've just got to figure out a time, but it will be soon, and we've already started trying to nail that time down, so that'll be buddy read soon. So Cage of Souls, tell me what you think if you've read it. Cage of Souls, Adrian Tchaikovsky. Talking of Dave and Olive, they also mentioned this one, and I had this for Christmas. I was really excited to get it, and I still haven't read it, and it's what, 6 months later. And this is supposed to be really good. It's supposed to be like science fiction horror, which is always an interesting blend of genres to stick together. That often works if it's written well, and this is supposed to be really good. So Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes is something else that I really want to read. Haven't read it yet, and again doesn't fit into the book events we're doing, so I haven't read it yet. These are all books that don't fit into the book events I'm doing. Again, this one, I was really excited about this. This is one I've had for at least 2 years, and I'm not sure why it keeps getting nudged to the side. but I really want to read this, and I think it's a book that has got a contemporary setting. It tackles racism and what it's like to live in a white world but be a black up and coming young guy wanting to make it, and there's lots of social commentary in it. That's what I know so far, but again, I didn't want to know too much. I wanted to go in relatively blind. So Black Buck, have you read that? That's another one I really want to read. I haven't done it yet, and I've had it for ages. And this one I've mentioned a few times. I did actually start to read this. I read about about 5 or 6 pages. Wasn't feeling it. I said, oh, I'll put it down and pick it up again another time. So I really want to read this because I love the concept of it. So this is about a flight, a contemporary book, a flight on a plane, passenger flight, and there's an anomaly in the sky, and it gets duplicated, and when it lands, there's 2 versions of the plane, 2 versions of all of the passengers, and the consequences are far-reaching because there are 2 people that, for each person, that feel like they are the real person, but there's this other one, you know, so it's like that kind of thing. So it plays with that a little bit, and it affects all sorts of different things. So kind of it's how it plays out, the consequences of it. So it sounds really cool. So that's something I really want to read. This was quite a new one, so I think this hasn't been out that long, but I bought it because I really like the other book I've read by her, and it looks like a really interesting plot as well, so I think that's my kind of book, so I really want to read that. By the way, I haven't got it in the pile, but I haven't read my Charles Adams book either. That's the biography of Charles Adams. I got that for my birthday. Should have read that by now as well. This one I've had for ages, and there's been a couple of other events where this would have fitted. I still haven't read The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, so I've obviously read H.G. Wells' Invisible Man, but this is a really important book. It's quite a big one. I think that might be what stopped me from doing it, because I know it would be a big investment. It might take me probably 2 or 3 weeks probably. But I really want to read it, and it's a really important book, and it's you know, about time I've read it because I've had it a while. So yeah, Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. Tell me whether I should read this really quickly, because I'm sure lots of you watching this would have read it. This is an interesting one because this is one I found on BookTube, and it seemed really interesting, and it was part of this new batch of Penguin classics that came out, which featured Robert Sheckley. Well, I was really pleased about that. And a new version of Make Room, Make Room. There's a really interesting batch of books that came out, but this was one of them, Ice, Anna Kavan. So I hadn't heard of this until I saw it being reviewed on BookTube, and it looked really interesting and quite unique from what the guy was saying on the video. So I really want to read this. It's not that long. I could stick this in between some books, really. You know, I might be able to, get to this soon, because, you know, when it's shorter, you can go like, oh, well, this only take me a couple of days, so I can jump on this one. But yeah, have you read Ice by Anna Kavan? It's supposed to be really interesting and quite thought-provoking and different. I wanted to read some Lee Brackett. So I've had this for a while, but it was kind of heightened by my Ray Bradbury deep dive, which is one of the events I'm doing. It's like a personal event I'm doing. And he had a very close relationship with Lee Brackett, and Lee Brackett was like an inspiration to him and a mentor. And I want to read something by Lee Brackett, because I haven't read any of her stuff before. So that's definitely something that I really want to get to. This is a book that Willow from Books and Bow talked about, and I immediately bought it. And I've had it ages. And it's not like I keep putting it off, I keep forgetting it's there. So I keep moving it around, and like go downstairs for a bit, and it'll go on one of these shelves for a bit. It'll go in the back bit behind the front shelves, and it'll just keep moving it, and which doesn't help. But this seems to be quite a unique exploration of AI and the future and work ethics and stuff like that. It just seems really interesting. So I absolutely hate the cover, by the way, but yeah, I definitely want to read this. I mentioned in the mid-year freakout tag how much I was getting into Hiromi Kawakami, and I think this is the thing that brought her name to the forefront and made people get excited about her. So I've read 2 of her books so far. This is the next one I'm going to read. I have got a 4th book by her as well, which was one of the first 2 I bought. But I'm going to read this next because I've got this now, and it was the one that sort of made her famous, if you like. So yeah, I really want to read this. I really like the way she writes. So about time I got into that, but these events are getting in the way. Again, more John Wyndham. If I've got any John Wyndham I haven't read, I want to read it, and I bought 2 recently. This is an example of one of them, The Secret People, and I don't like having John Wyndham that I haven't read, so that's a thing. I bought Bulgakov's Heart of a Dog in London when I was with MJ, so I've only had this since the first week of May, but I was very excited to have it, and I need to read it. And to be fair, I haven't read the Master and Margarita yet either. Clara and Sun is another one that I really want to read, and I haven't got to it yet. You can see that these book events are getting in the way of so many books. This is like a small example of as well. I bought Grady Hendricks' book and got all excited about it as well. I don't know if you saw the short I did on it, because this was an absolute find. This was 50p, I think it was. This is ridiculous. This is like brand new copy. The condition is perfect, and these are expensive, the Grady Hendricks books. What does it say on it? Does it say how much? No, it doesn't say how much, but they're often American imports, and they're usually about $12.99. But this was 50p, and I really need to read this because everyone raves about how good Grady Hendricks is. So that's another one. Another one I bought, and this was I bought for my very obscure and not particularly exciting book event that I tried to make, which was the Spring Me a Melody, and I bought Daisy Jones and the Six, but I haven't got to it yet because I'm doing other people's events, and I kind of limped it forward a little bit. I started reading some stuff, but yeah, the Spring Me a Melody thing hasn't really happened again. I think I'm learning that my book events aren't as important as everyone else's. But Daisy Jones and the Six, I do really want to read this because it's probably going to speak to me, because I think it's about the machinations of being in a rock band, and I love that kind of thing. So Daisy Jones and the Six, I really want to read. Have you read that? And just to finish, one last thing. I've finally got this. It's not very big. This is going to be the next thing I read out of this whole pile once I've read some Western stuff for June on the Range. It's June on the Range and Book Trek that's getting away this month. Also something else we'll get to in a second. But this is the next thing I'm going to do. So I'm finishing this video with this because I'm dying to read this, and this is the next thing I'm going to read. So I expect to love this. I've loved everything I've read by Becky Chambers. I think she's really, really interesting. And I just like what she does, and everyone loves this. So I'm sure I'm going to like it. I'm very confident I'm going to like this. But I want to read this very, very soon. So, yeah, as I said, June on the Range and Book Trek 2023, and the Historathon as well, although I've slacked that off a little bit. Because 2 reasons, really. I had loads and loads of stuff to do that were kind of teacher related, because it's the end of term, it's the end of the year, and I was trying to get my second year's finished, and there's a big gig coming up, and it was just a bit more stressful with my music students. So that's part of it, why I haven't read as much. And also I personally had a big gig that I ended up having to do a lot of promotion for, a lot of planning for, and that kind of stuff. So those 2 things got in the way of the reading as well. So it wasn't just the book events, it was also those 2 things that made my life kind of slow down a little bit from that point of view. So one thing that hasn't slowed it down, which I thought might have happened, I kind of expected to start writing my next book, and I haven't done that. So that's not slowed my reading down, and I really do want to do that, but I do enjoy reading. So anyway, tell me if you've read those books. What book shall I get on and start reading? Because there's a whole variety of different styles in there. Let me know. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.